I think you're on mute.
Workday's starting to sound the same.
I think you're on mute.
Find something that sounds better for your career on LinkedIn. With LinkedIn Job Collections, you can browse curated collections by relevant industries and benefits, like flex PTO or hybrid workplaces, so you can find the right job for you. Get started at linkedin.com/jobs. Finding where you fit. LinkedIn knows how.
Don't you love it when things are both easier and more affordable? Like when the rain washes your car for you. Or like when you save up to 10% by bundling your renters and auto insurance with USAA. Bundle with USAA and start saving. Get a quote today.
Welcome to the 26th episode of Flixwatcher podcast. I'm Kobe.
I'm Helen, here today to discuss the 80s nostalgia flick Turbo Kid, and in the discussion we have Ben from Top Film Tip and Ed, our fellow team quiz member.
As always, guys, we have all the show notes online at flixwatcher.tv for all the episodes, so please come and visit us there. Of course, join us on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod, and please come to iTunes, rate us and subscribe. And as we always say, guys, all the films were available on Netflix at the time of recording. There was going to be bad language, there's going to be spoilers, and we hope you enjoy it. So this episode of Flixwatcher podcast has been brought to you by Geo Productions, and I have to say a massive thanks to Geo Productions. They've been holding my hand on Flixwatcher with Helen and I with their superb sexual editing skills. They're producing podcasters and helping podcasters like ourselves, helping us sound awesome. So we really want to big you guys up, and they said if anyone out there wants to be a podcaster and wants their help, then reach out to them, podcast@glpro.co.uk, and tell them that Flixwatcher sent you, and you'll get 10% off your first package, off your first order, so you've got nothing to lose.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Flixwatcher podcast. Today we are joined by Ed and Ben, who are our quiz team fellow quizzers
from
the
Shabbos Rollers
Bigger Boat film quiz that we do. We have been victorious
at least once,
I think.
Possibly twice.
Possibly.
maybe thrice even. But Ben, you are perhaps the largest reason that Flixwatcher podcast exists, because that's how we
all met.
Yeah, that's how we all met, and now we're here talking about what's going to be Turbo Kid, which you're going to introduce. Who are you?
Who are you?
Thank you. First of all, thanks for having me on. My name is Ben. I run Top Film Tip on Twitter. It's an account where I tweet out a little tip, a little snappy synopsis of the best films on TV every day. By TV, it's British TV. But a lot of people enjoy following the account to get some ideas of new films to watch or what's on. For instance, for Turbo Kid, the tip would be donning comic book heroes persona, post-apocalyptic BMXer and perpetually ecstatic android battle splattery gore tyrant. Turbo Kid.
And who are you over there?
I'm Ed. I'm a cinephile, I guess, who's on your quiz team. I don't have much of a social media presence, but if you want to get in touch, I'm on Twitter at Corrigan90.
Yeah, I'll link to in the show notes. Don't worry about that.
But yeah, I can't recommend Top Film Tip enough. Definitely give that a follow.
Thanks very much, Ed.
What an endorsement.
So, Ben, tell us why you chose Turbo Kid and the synopsis.
I think I spotted this film originally as the trailer was on the header of IMDb for like one day. They must have got all their money together for the advertising. It really caught my imagination. It's a retro-themed 80s style post-apocalyptic adventure film, kind of riffing on a lot of the 80s vibe films like BMX Bandits, Rad, as well as all the post-apocalyptic favourites, particularly Mad Max. It's got a real aesthetic, a real energy and enthusiasm to the film. It's tremendous retro electro soundtrack and unbelievable levels of gore that still surprise me every time I watch it. It's just a whole lot of fun. The film follows a sort of teenage boy who is living alone out in the post-apocalyptic wilderness, and he's befriended by a sort of mysterious yet inexplicably enthusiastic young lady.
Yeah, called Apple.
Apple, indeed. And Are we spoilering?
Absolutely.
Is an android called Apple. So right there, you got an idea that some of the nuanced layered humour in the film, and they end up getting into some kind of feud with a tyrant played by Michael Ironside.
Yeah, a tyrant called Zeus.
Zeus, who, as is tradition, loses body parts, just like he does in RoboCop and Starship Troopers and Total Recall. Does he lose an arm in Total Recall?
I can't remember.
that.
So Michael Ironside is one of those character actors for me who I recognise his face, but I genuinely cannot place him in films. So I doing a bit of IMDbing, and that's where the jigsaw pieces kind of fell into place. But I really can't remember what he's done in any great detail. Can you guys place him?
No, but I for some reason I thought that he didn't actually have one eye in real life because
Oh,
he
really?
kind of plays that one-eyed sort of character all the time. Anyway,
I thought he was one of the characters in Malcolm in the Middle for a long time whilst watching the film. I don't know why. Ed, what do you think?
I feel the exact same. Like you see him and you go, that guy.
Yeah.
Where have I seen him? And it does take an IMDb search to really know who he is and where you've seen him before.
So let's talk about Turbo Kid in the start. This film is kind of packed with a lot of influences, isn't it? All the way through.
Lots of little in-jokes and nods.
And when it first started, I actually thought the first film I thought was WALL-E. At the start of WALL-E, where he's looking through the scavenging around and picking things up, and being alone in the wilderness. Basically, I had no idea where he was, who was with him. I mean, what kind of influences do you reckon?
Well, there's a lovely gag where he's eating the Soylent Vert breakfast cereal, which is the French release name for Soylent Green, Green Sun. There's the one of the running gags through the whole film that I absolutely adore is it's a post-apocalyptic biker style violent adventure film, but they don't have motorbikes, they have push
BMXs,
bikes. So even like the big bad guys just roll in on a BMX or a battered up tricycle, and it's played absolutely deadpan. It's hilarious.
Man, that kind of BMX bandit thing is a big kind of pull
very
for me.
strong 80s theme.
Absolutely.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
How many people here watched this by themselves, and who watched it with people?
I watched it alone both times I've seen it.
I watched it by myself.
Alone.
Yeah, same.
We do
Does
have
this say
friends.
more about
we do
us?
have
Yeah.
friends.
This might say something about us, but I find comedy is a very social thing.
Mm.
And you're right, it's very deadpan. But I think it took until the first fight scene for me to laugh out loud. And it was at that point that I was like, this is actually a comedy. This isn't just a really bad film. This is meant to be this way.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that would have clicked a lot faster if I was with other people.
That's interesting. On that point, I broadly only watch films alone. I watch roughly slightly over a film a day, and that usually is in my commuting time. So I'm almost always alone. Does anyone regularly watch films with their partners or friends?
I'd say like 50-50.
Half and half,
Yeah, sounds about right.
I'm like 95% on my own.
But this kind of film, I would find it hard to get past Sarah. It'd be a tough
It's
watch.
a tough sell for some people.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't be able to watch it with your kids.
This is not a film I watch with children.
Should point out that this is not a children's film.
Yeah.
If you kind of look at the poster and kind of look at, just it briefly, the word kid does not mean this is for children.
No. It's not an 80s adventure Goonies
It's
type
not.
thing.
That's interesting. There is no dismemberment or gushing blood on the poster.
No.
It has a very nostalgic poster that brings you back to your childhood,
Yeah.
but it is not for children.
So when was this actually made? 2015, was it?
2015. It's based on a short film they made the year before, probably about 20 minutes, which I haven't managed to track down. It does have a sequel in the works, and there's also a 9-minute short you can find on YouTube, which is sort of the story of Apple, the android, before, like a little mini prequel to the film.
So, I mean, let's talk a bit about the film and who's in it. Because the Turbo Kid, he loses his parents tragically at the hands of Michael Ironside and his henchmen with the skeleton with the skull face mask.
It's told really nicely. The skull face mask guy, that's real Master Blaster from that took me to Master Blaster from Thunderdome. But the childhood story kind of comes in 3 or 4
waves.
They're like flashbacks on them.
Yeah.
The sequences.
And builds in, and there's a nice little payoff at the end of that, and it builds the character. And I think with a film like this, it's obviously made on a low budget, that's coming from a real place of nostalgia and love from everyone involved. There's a real danger that it could end up looking really cheap and amateur. And this film is made, to my mind, really, really well. It sits together nicely. It's tightly edited. It doesn't feel baggy or slow. There's no point in the film I'm bored. Every scene is colourful and interesting, and there's always some little detail to take your interest. I feel I should stop at this point because I obviously love this film. But I have no idea about you guys. So should we go around and just give a yay or nay?
Yeah.
Go on, Ed.
So I have to say that at the start it was going to be a nay. It just felt cliched. It felt like it was trying too hard. And as I say, it wasn't until the first fights. Like, so for example, any scene with the cowboy, his dialogue, I was just like, oh dear God, are you serious? And then you get the fight scene and it is so ludicrous. It is so...
So which fight scene was it you're talking about?
The pool, the start in the pool party.
Right.
It all kind of just gets so out there, so ludicrous that I'm like, right, it's not just kind of this...
Forced, stilted.
Yeah, it kind of all fell into place. And from that point on, I definitely started enjoying it. I just kind of let loose and I was like, you know what, I'm going to enjoy this for what it is. Which at the start, I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, you can't take it too seriously.
No.
Helen?
Definitely not.
What are your thoughts?
It's a lot of fun.
You're a big fan of the old style original Peter Jacksons, aren't you, Helen?
Yeah, that it's definitely along the... Probably surpasses, actually, Braindead's level of gore. There's some particularly brilliant bits with torsos and
the triple stack.
Yeah. And a particularly inventive bicycle torture scene, which should really please any gore fans. But I think the thing I like the most is probably Apple. I think every bit that she's in is a lot of
zeal.
fun. She's kind of sort of the manic pixie dream girl.
I thought I knew
amplified.
I thought you were going to say that.
She's not annoying. She should be, but she isn't.
At the start, when she first came into, so I'm on kind of Ed's camp. When it first came on, I was kind of like, "What is this exactly?" And it took a few things to kind of twig as to what kind of the setting was, how deadpan it was, where it was kind of going, and then you can just kind of relax and go, "Okay, I'm fine. This is what I'm into." And I should point out on our Twitter account, I always ask people what their favorite thing on Netflix is at the moment. And more than one person, quite a few people actually said Turbo Kid. So it was actually really cool to hear you say, let's watch Turbo Kid, because I've literally never heard about it.
We'd had a lot of love for it from outside of our group.
Yeah. And there's people, so there are people that, and we'll talk about it. There's people who gave us short reviews and they really loved it.
It has all the makings of a cult classic.
Yeah. Yeah. It's set out to be a cult classic and it's not trying to be anything big or clever. It's just about, let's go out and let's enjoy making this film and let's enjoy hopefully showing it to people.
So that would be 4 yeses then.
I would say, because obviously you'd mentioned a few other films that were kind of kids' films, I didn't really read anything about it. I just kind of went in going, Ben really likes it, so it could be anything. I have to say, it wasn't
high praise.
It wasn't the film that I was expecting it to be.
What were you expecting it to be?
I did think it was probably a kids' film, or I thought it was like from the start bits, some kind of the film that it is, but without any of the gore. I think was what I was expecting.
The gore
and then
was...
when it came in, I was like, oh, okay, interesting.
Because the gore was quite interesting. Because I mean, nowadays we have the kind of hardcore gore of things
It's
like
everywhere.
Logan and Raid, where it's visceral and it's real, and you have the kind of cartoonish of Tarantino and things like Kingsman and
Deadpool.
And Deadpool, yeah, I guess Deadpool's kind of in there, isn't it?
Comic book violence.
Yeah, and this is hyper kind of comic, but it's like it's not even trying to be.
I think the Peter Jackson
The
parallel,
influence
I think, is clearly, you can see some influence.
And
there.
this is a Kiwi Canadian mix, isn't it?
I think it's just Canadian.
Canadian.
I don't know if there was some Kiwi money behind it, but it was filmed in the French parts of Quebec and Montreal.
Okay.
Laurence Leboeuf has made a lot of French language films. Apple, the Android.
Oh, cool. I mean, I think I still haven't seen Braindead, Bad Taste yet. well, I have seen them in part. But I can't remember what really happens in apart from those heads exploding and there's things like that. But there's so many points where people's torsos were just quartered and falling apart, and the amount of obviously fake blood.
What I have to say about this film is I saw it on release. When I saw that trailer on IMDb, the one day it was on, I was absolutely just.
And where did you watch it the first time?
I think I got a DVD when it came out on DVD. I think it must have got a very limited release in cinema, and that was sometime in 2015, and we're in 2017 now. And it's been a while since I watched it. I just remembered really enjoying it and the retro feel and the post-apocalyptic and just being a thoroughly enjoyable film. When I came to watch it a second time a couple of weeks ago, I had wholly forgotten about the level of gore, which didn't go down well on public transport.
Why? What did people point things out?
There were some uncomfortable little stares from my passenger, on the Thames Link, and the other thing I'd totally forgotten about is the absolutely awesome retro electro
soundtrack
score, which was fantastic. And if you're not sure,
and was it all original score? This,
I believe it's original score, and if it's kind of in the realm of Stranger Things, I'd say. If you're familiar with the Stranger Things soundtrack,
and also like Tron, I think it's probably more Tron-y.
Tron's another kind of influence there, isn't
Strong
it?
influence.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of like nostalgic 80s media at the moment with like Stranger Things, Drive.
Yeah.
Tron kind of the sequel came out a few years ago, so it kind of fits in that
pocket, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think the opening song is like that sort of 80s cock rock kind of cocaine fueled guitar music is actually from an 80s BMX film called Rad. So there's a direct nod there to BMXing films from the 80s.
I think a lot of this for me did kind of rest on the nostalgia. I used to love BMX Bandit as a kid, but I can't remember it. Mad Max for me was, I didn't really like it when it came out, but obviously the new version of Mad Max I think is outstanding. But riding around, and Goonies as well, I think is an influence on that as well, on this kind of thing, riding around with your mates and stuff like that. And I, as a kid, used to ride around in the BMX bikes and have fights with the kids in the neighborhood. Not really fights, but we'd all kind of hang out in packs, and so this really kind of grabbed me.
What was the name of your gang, Cobes?
We didn't have. I lived on a place called Aspen Close, so Aspen Closes.
They're pretty. All the gangs were named after whatever street you lived on, pretty much.
And also, I guess then that ties in maybe with some like the Warriors having the gangs and roaming around, but
there was a little bit of a Warriors feel to it.
I think with the bunch of bad guys have kind of got that Warriors feel because they've all got their individual looks and
also the Warriors kind of
style.
soundtrack as well.
Yeah,
a very distinctive kind of soundtrack.
So I was born in the 90s, and this whole thing's kind of going right off my head.
You missed out, dude.
A lot of the references weren't. I don't know. Like I could see the nostalgia there because obviously, these films are still around.
It'd be hard not to.
But it was Mad Max was the biggest thing for me, and I think that's what threw me off because I watched all three Mad Max films when I was about between 12 and 14. So I'm watching it and I'm getting a very strong Mad Max feel. And I think that's why I was thrown off at the beginning, because I'm expecting this kind of gritty, just this kind of really gritty post-apocalyptic film.
But then...
And it's not. And it's got so many more elements to it that just went over my head.
Mad Max doesn't have a gnome stick or someone being impaled by a unicorn bike.
No, but it does have...
the quest, they're looking for water.
It has the quest for water.
Landscape.
It has the made up weapons. Everything's kind of been rebuilt from something else.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have a gnome
salvaged
stick, but it has got weapons that have been salvaged from something else.
Yeah.
They've all got BMXs that they kind of do up themselves, but Mad Max has got these cars and these trucks that they've all rebuilt and reimagined. So yeah, I think that might be what threw me off. The fact that I missed a lot of the other references.
So that's interesting, but even that said, you still got a lot of pleasure from this film.
Oh yeah, massively. But as I say, it took
a while into it.
It took something as ludicrous as the crazy out of the world gore that made me go, oh, okay, right.
To give an indication to any listeners, is the level of detail and imagination that goes into the gore of this film is admirable. There's a scene where someone gets is relieving themselves, and they get ambushed from behind. And as they fall over, there's this enormous gush of blood, paralleled by an enormous stream of urine. And it's those little details that give it the rewatch value.
And
to my mind.
the triple stack that you mentioned earlier.
Triple stack is a memorable moment, I would think.
So it's like a torso on top of a torso on top of a pair of legs, and you got the guy who's been stacked upon. He can't. Well, he's completely blind, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, partway through the film, the protagonist who admires this comic book hero Turbo Kid finds a sort of 80s style power glove that has the same powers
We'll have those in the 80s.
Yeah, as his hero, as his comic book hero, that basically has the ability to just eviscerate people at a distance.
Yeah.
And he makes really good use of it in his quest for justice.
Well, let's talk about the main two guys then. Well, Eddie, what's the main kid's name? Is it just Turbo Kid? Or just call him Turbo Kid?
I mean, I was kind of watching it going, it really does look like Johnny Bravo from Razorlight. I was like thinking
that's actually a fair point.
he's gone into acting, and I did have to check to see that it wasn't actually him.
A little bit younger, but yeah.
A little bit younger, yeah.
Because you talked about Apple and the manic pixie dream girl last thing. So when she first came on, I was annoyed by her.
The kid.
He's called a kid.
The kid.
But you do kind of grow to love her, especially when you find out she's this android who's just there to help people, and it's such a nice combination. He falls in love with that's that kind of romance thing, even though he knows she's an android. There's that love thing, and they wanted to protect each other, and it's so beautiful.
Yeah, love and vomit.
Yeah, love and vomit.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you guys make of Apple generally? Because she's been, I think she's got
Everyone's
the most.
Kind of, got
everyone
the love
loves
for her.
everyone loves Apple from Twitter.
She has a tremendous charisma, and it's hard to explain. You can use words like enthusiasm or zeal, and you can't describe the infinite energy that this actress puts into that character's.
It's a hard task. It's a hard role, isn't it?
It's unrelenting.
Yeah,
but as you say, Helen, not in an annoying way.
She could be really annoying, but
it could really great. But
it's just a very fine line.
It is a very fine line, and she's got a very naive, childlike innocence to her, and it's one of those things that could very well be annoying, and you know that the kid is annoyed with her at the beginning, and you kind of want to agree with him, but you can't. She's just really likable.
I mean, there's that really cool scene where you think she's dead, or she's been decharged, and she comes back to life and finds the unicorn BMX bike, and comes into the big fight at the end and skewers one of the bad guys, and it's just. And you just see her coming from a distance with a big smile on her face. It's a bit like Kimmy Schmidt in the way, that unrelenting kind of.
Yes, that's a really good parallel.
Yeah, that kind of unrelenting, happy, smiley. Just you can't be angry with. It's one of those people you can't be angry with, but sometimes you might just feel exhausted by being with her for like an hour. You might just think, let's just go over there for a bit and leave me alone, but come back soon because I will need a hug or I'll need some pep up and stuff like that. But she's probably the best part of the film, I would think.
It's interesting that you drew the Kimmy Schmidt parallel. I drew Harley Quinn, and I don't think anyone really wants to talk about Suicide Squad because that film was dire. But maybe it's like just that weird enthusiasm mixed with the platinum blonde hair. But
she's like a pale blue. No, she's pink. She changes throughout the film, doesn't she?
Well, no, I think it stays. It's just kind of like
through.
pink blonde kind of thing. I don't know. It's just that kind of sociopathic innocence and enthusiasm, maybe.
I mean, I got kind of Natalie Portman in Garden State for my reference.
Yeah.
So I guess
it's that manic pixie dream girl thing. Yeah.
Yeah, she's great in it.
And it's good to see a female character like that who's just awesome.
Fun.
What I quite enjoyed of this film is even now, so many films are just about someone whose spouse or partner gets fridged and they end up having to go on some vengeance mission. In this case, she actually ends up saving him, and it's not forced. It's not like they've gone, "Oh, we're going to do a gender flip. We're going to, make a point of it." It's just she's one of the characters, and all the characters do their thing. And there's females on the bad side. There's females on the good side, and it's everyone's involved, and no one's free from violence.
It's strange. She starts off needing help. Like she leaves behind a dead best friend and replaces the dead best friend with the kid. And she kind of claims to need his help. But you're right. When he's the one that needs help, she comes running.
She's the one who comes running with a unicorn.
Doesn't seem like it's an intentional force. Let's gender flip it. Just is. But can I go back? Did you say a spousal partner getting fridged?
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
You've never heard
before.
this term. This is a filmmaking term whereby it's a bit of a lazy trope, whereby to motivate a character, they're female, that they are, patriotically in charged with protecting, is somehow harmed, raped, murdered, and then they have to go on a mission of vengeance. And it's always that way around. You never really get too many films where the woman goes on a mission of vengeance afterwards.
But where fridge? That just...
It's just a term. I'm not sure.
Cool.
Where it comes
Well, look it up, guys. And I've heard it before, but I can't remember. I think there was a specific reference to...
It probably goes back to a particular film
Yeah.
where someone was killed with a fridge.
fridge deaths. In the bad guys, who are your favourites?
Ironside.
Ironside. What about the iron faced? What about the Iron Mask guy?
With his multiple
You see,
blades of destruction.
He seemed to be invincible compared. All the other bad guys were very, very much disposable. Yeah.
There's something about the Iron Mask. You kind of...
It's very Vega from Street Fighter 2. Are you too young for Street Fighter 2, Ed?
I've seen it, but I think...
No, we're talking
Well, the fact you've said you've seen it, not
Yeah.
played it, I think answers our question.
I've seen the Street Fighter films, and
Is Vega even in Street Fighter?
Street Fighter.
Or is it?
I think I'm more of a Mortal Kombat guy.
Oh,
Street Fighter,
okay.
so yeah, I
Yeah,
am
but
a
like-
little bit
You're a
too young.
Sega, not a Nintendo.
I mean, the posters that we've got up there, the Turbo Kid is the Street Fighter font.
Well, yeah, it's very similar.
Yeah.
I think there's a mystery to the Iron Face guy, though. I think I kept waiting to find out that he was going to be someone.
Mm.
And I think that was what really drew me to him.
I liked how kind of expressive he was in his
non-expressive face.
Yeah, in his non-expressive face. It's like if you've seen the film Frank, where Michael Fassbender has Frank Sidebottom's head on. He managed to convey a lot of expression
In his body language.
Yeah, despite not being able to actually see his face. And I mean, this metal face guy's got the advantage. You can actually see his eyes at some point, so you can really kind of see his anger and the kind of vitriol and the almost enjoyment at slicing people up with his ballistic chainsaw thing that he lets fly.
Yeah. It's there's various scenes in the film where Michael Ironside is having pool parties, whereby there is a disused pool that he puts people in, and then they get chopped up by the bad guys and then mulched for their bodily water fluids. And Iron Faced Man, see, you're right. He seems to enjoy this process.
Bit of a psycho. All right, guys. Anything else you want to say about the film?
I realise we've probably spoiled the whole film by this point, but if you've somehow skipped ahead 20 minutes, go into this film cold. Watch it with a bunch of friends and tell us what it was like.
Yeah.
Tell us with no friends what it's like to watch with friends.
Yeah, I would love to hear, because there are certain films that you can watch by yourself and you can enjoy, but then you watch it with people and the experience is completely different. So, for example, American Psycho, I missed that at the cinema. I was too young to watch it at the cinema, but I watched it a lot by myself and with 2 or 3 friends and had great enjoyment. I watched it at the Prince Charles, and everyone was laughing like really loudly out loud, and I was like, this is an actual comedy, not just like a dark black comedy. Everyone is really, it's not like this. It's kind of weird. It was
full on belly
outrageous,
laughs.
and I was
The infectious experience.
and so I would really like to know how people reacted to watching this in company as opposed to just.
Well, it'd be quite interesting to hear what
Share your group experiences with us,
yeah,
please.
and the small screen score could have an impact on that.
When the sequel comes out, I'm going to try and get to a screening for this one.
Well, I think there seems to be a lot of love for it, so I think there'll be clusters of people who are ready to go and watch it when it comes out. A cult classic.
Do you know what would
In
be
the
great?
making.
Secret Cinema.
Secret Cinema.
Secret Cinema Turbo Kid. That could be fantastic.
What would be your costume? It'd have to be a super bright helmet for me.
I'd like to say I could pull off Apple.
That
but
sounds quite weird.
Which one?
I'm
The
a bit,
sparkly dress or the jumpsuit?
I'm a bit fatter and hairier than her, so I'd probably end up being a Michael Ironside.
Yeah, you'd be good at that.
Yeah, with the
Thanks, Helen.
with the eye patch. I think I'll probably go as a rogue. I'll just probably get an NFL kit and some kind of mad helmet and get some spikes on me. It'd be good to get some kind of gore going as well.
Projectile.
Maybe
circular
like
sword.
have my my left arm inside my coat and then have it fall off all the time and
I
spray
think
blood all over the
we've
place.
worked it out. Me and Ed should go as the triple stack.
Fancy dress for Halloween. This is a thing. This is a thing.
There's a lot of good inspiration for it. I think, guys, it's time for a popcorn break.
So we've been given some popcorn by the Popcorn Shed. They are responsible for some unique flavours. This one is a rich chocolate flavour from their secret family recipe. And it's chocolate caramel popcorn with Belgian milk chocolate. And there are a lot of popcorns around at the moment. We tried some recently that weren't very good. Not this brand.
You're not going to mention any names.
I can't remember who they were by, but it was strawberries and cream was the flavour. And I
yeah.
didn't really like that. But this is
I know
very
what you're
good.
talking about. You haven't tried this one yet, have you?
I feel that this secret family recipe involves hiding all of the chocolate because these are fantastic.
Have you ever, when you were a kid, did you ever have a bowl of popcorn and put milk in it so it's like a bowl of cereal?
This is a bit like Cocoa Pops.
Yeah.
That would work.
Yeah.
For this one, it'd be awesome.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm going to get some for my kids.
And for yourself. When you say for your kids, does that actually just mean you?
For breakfast.
I don't have kids, but I'm going to use that excuse.
But for those of you who do have any allergens or anything you're not particularly down with, it's suitable for vegetarians and gluten-free.
Oh.
So fun for everyone. Delicious.
These are actually awesome. This is actually no joke. Everyone here is like properly
This is
stuffing
my
their
dinner.
faces. Nom, nom, nom.
I think it's going to be difficult to discuss films with all of our mouths full.
And that's it. Cheers to Popcorn Shed for their rich chocolate flavour. And yeah, Sam and Laura for making Popcorn Shed.
Do we know where we can get this?
You can get it online via the show notes from popcornshed.com. And they're also on Twitter, and they're also on Instagram, and they're also on Facebook. So get in touch with them because and you can get it in certain places, like in some cinemas in London, like the picture houses. You can buy it from there.
Where they have the film quiz?
It's got really good packaging as well.
Yeah.
It's like a little shed.
It's
So you
really
can't
cool.
miss it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to keep an eye out for this.
But while we're munching, shall we see what the scores are? For this
Yeah,
one?
so we go to the scores.
And first up is the
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/SBO. Terms and conditions apply.
on our unique scoring system, the recommendability score. So Ben.
This is a film that would definitely get a tip on TV. It's a film I would recommend wholeheartedly.
Has it ever been on TV as far as you know?
It's not been on yet.
And you would know, you scan it, you have the database of all the films ever shown on TV ever, in the UK at least.
Yeah.
Good.
Literally. Yeah, I mean, certainly, you know, you'd have to pick your audience. This isn't a film for my mum and dad, and this isn't a film for my kids. But for people who have some sense of nostalgia for the 80s and some love of post-apocalyptic fiction and gore and comedy, if you like any one of those or all four, this is a film for you.
Does it? I mean, I would kind of just say you have to be a bit open-minded as to what is coming, because some people go into a film and, well, I say closed-minded is the opposite, but they won't accept that things are crazy gory. They won't accept that there's comedy and this kind of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Is that a narrow band of people?
I think anyone who's put off by violence or gore, this is not a film they're going to enjoy. But someone said something to me once. It's all of us. You know, we've got a film quiz team, the Shabbos Rollers, the Bigger Boat Film Quiz, and
Watch out, quizzes.
you know, we're all film enthusiasts. You know, I watch a film a day. You know, all of you guys have got very broad tastes, and you know what films you like, and you watch films you might not even like because you might like them. A lot of people just turn up to the cinema twice a year and go, I fancy that guy.
Yeah,
I'm going to see that film. And they have
or I
no
saw
idea.
Transformers 2 years ago. Let's watch Transformers 3.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this is not a film for those guys.
No.
Or it could be. They might just never have had their eyes open to such
Perhaps this could be the
Splatter.
film that changes them forever.
It could be.
So what does that score? How does that translate into the recommendability score for you?
I'm going to go for a 5.
Oh wow, okay. With massive caveats.
So is that how do you take caveats out? Is it like 1/10 of a point for every caveat?
No, I mean it's how you want to judge it, isn't it? So you're saying you'd recommend it to people who are open-minded. You definitely recommend it to them.
Absolutely.
But then there'll be people who are like, not for you.
Is there any film you could recommend to everybody?
It'll be something like Back to the Future.
No one should not like that film.
That's true.
If you don't like that film, then you've probably not got
On
a
the
soul.
basis that Back to the Future is a film that everybody can watch,
Yeah.
I'm going to give this a 4.
Okay. Ed.
This is tough. I mean, you're right. It definitely, it's a film for certain people and definitely not for others. And you have to go into it with an open mind. But considering that you recommended it for this, I wouldn't have watched it like otherwise. I would have seen it and been like, nah, there are other films.
So if you'd have started watching it based on a Netflix recommendation, you would have probably pulled out
I would
quite
have
early on.
pulled out, relatively early on. But because it was recommended, I really enjoyed it. And I reckon a lot of other people might be the same, especially with a heads up that, like, just give it a bit more time. Give it a real recommendation as opposed to just watch this. I would, I don't think there'd be that many caveats. I'd say, because the reality is the gore, while it's out there, it isn't.
It's so over the top that you can't take it seriously.
Yeah, it's like, how do you describe it? It's so out there that it can't be offensive.
Yeah.
There's a lot of blood, but nobody's going to confuse that with real blood. Nobody's going to kind of turn away and go, oh, I can't watch that. That's
Well, there were some
it's
parts.
like Tom and Jerry violence.
yeah. Like
there were some parts I like with the bicycle.
with the bicycle.
I was thinking that right now.
Yeah.
I was thinking that, but as soon as you kind of actually look at it, you go, okay, well, no one's confusing that for an actual intestine.
Okay, I'm gonna take that Tom and Jerry and I'm gonna switch that to Itchy and Scratchy.
Yeah.
It's Itchy and Scratchy level violence, but live action.
Yeah, so I don't think it really is. I think the only issue is, will people find it funny? Not will they be offended? Because Itchy and Scratchy is for kids,
Supposedly.
Yeah, I would give it a 4. I don't think there are that many caveats. I think the only caveat is, do I think they would find it funny? And that is whether or not they have an open enough mind.
H?
I'm going to give it a 4. The only thing, I mean, I really enjoy this film and I really recommend it to anyone who doesn't take films too seriously and likes a bit of gore. The only thing that I think is its downfall is that it is a little bit too reliant on being so nostalgic and having so many similarities with other films that it does feel that it's patched together a lot from different influences for most of the part. So I think if anyone I wouldn't recommend it to is someone who's not really into kind of nostalgia films and has an interest. If you've got no interest in the film of the 80s, then you're probably not going to enjoy this much because it does rely on having like a love of E.T. and a love of those 80s kind of soundtracks and things. So I think that's where
it pulls on your heartstrings a bit.
It'd be interesting to see what they do with the sequel. If they try and replicate a nostalgic thing, or they try and like build on what they
to have
and do
something a
something
bit more
new.
original. But it is a lot of fun, and the gore is pretty brilliant. It's a lot of fun.
I'd say I'm going to go 4 as well. I think it's a nice.
Nice.
It's nice. It's a good film, but there are people who would be put off by the gore, even though it's, like you say, it's so extreme. It's almost inoffensive. It's just how they sat down and come up with these things. Whereas it's extreme cartoon violence, isn't it? It's not. When I think of cartoon violence, I typically think of the Kill Bill, where the bride's going through and fighting in the snow and just chopping people down, and that sometimes made me kind of wince a bit. But this was just not stupid, but it's just not naff. I don't know what kind of word I'm trying to say here, but it's so over the top, you just can't be put off by it. You can't really be offended by it. So yeah, 4. Don't know that was a bit of a ramble there. Repeat viewing score?
Well, I've seen this twice.
Will you see it again?
I would, and indeed, I think the second time I saw it, I got more out of it than the first time, and I could see this being a film I could come back to, every year, and perhaps introduce a few friends to. and see how that goes in a group watch.
So what's that score then?
I always go for a 5, and then someone says something, and I'll drop it back down. But personally, if this is repeat viewing is just for me, I will definitely watch this again, and I'll watch it regularly. So that will be a 5.
Ed?
I don't know about regularly, but I'm definitely going to rewatch this, if for no other reason than I didn't know what I was getting into. And I've said it before, I've said it a few times, but if I were to watch it knowing what the start is, I might appreciate it from start to end a little bit more. So it's definitely getting a repeat viewing.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not that's like every year or just like 2 or 3 times, it's definitely getting watched again. So I'm going with 4.
Okay.
It's slightly low. I'm going to go for 3.5. I'd have no objections to watching it again, but actively sitting down to put it on again, possibly not anytime soon, but I would be interested to see the sequel on this.
So 3.5?
Yeah.
I'd like to see this one on like a big outdoor screen and a big, like a...
When it comes to summer, they do like an
like
open...
a drive-in.
Yeah.
With the little speaker in your car.
I think that would be an interesting viewing.
Push for that to happen and I'm there.
I think I'm going to go 3.23.
It's very precise.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know we got that precise.
We can go into the hundreds.
You can go into as many significant figures as you want. But I don't know why.
Why not 3.24?
Or 3.25.
I think I will watch it again some point in the next 2 years, definitely. But I think it's going to have like a half-life. It's going to have like a decay on it. I'll watch it again, but after that, I'm not sure when I'd be interested in watching it again. That's
an interesting point. Is it going to be a Big Lebowski that gets better with every viewing, or is it going to be something else that, like you say, something that kind of depletes every time you watch it?
I don't deplete. I'll just predict that.
I won't deplete. It'll just be I think I'll have less interest in watching it again. Where something like the Lebowski, once a year can think, yeah, I'm going to put it on and be happy watching it. But I think this, I'll probably think of other films again that I'd rather watch. Unless someone would talk about it in conversation and make me think about it, that'll make me would be the inspiration for me to watch it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Small screen score.
I watched this in about, we were on quiz night last week. I watched it in about 4 sessions on 3 different devices over that day. And
this is like a crime against cinema.
Well, that's what Netflix allows.
Well, this is it. At Netflix, you can download films onto an SD card. So you can put your SD card in your phone or your tablet, your computer, and this film wasn't... I had seen it before, but I didn't lose anything by watching it in
When you
sessions.
watched it before, what was the size of the screen that you watched it in, and did you watch it in one sitting?
I watched it in one sitting on my TV.
That makes me feel better.
Yeah, I think all films are better on a big screen. So I don't think you can ever get a 5 for this rating.
Not all films.
Yeah, if it's got really crappy special effects, you don't want to see it in a bigger screen, do you?
If it's got really crappy special effects, you don't want to see it.
Well, not necessarily. Because some films just age badly, haven't they?
Yes.
Okay. I feel that you've trod this ground before. I'm going to give this a 4. It didn't detract for me, but I think I'd love to see it on a big screen, big outdoor environment.
Ed?
I have to disagree. I don't think there is a single film that is worse on a big screen. I think every film is made to be seen in the cinema. And I think that a communal viewing is the best way to watch these films. And while I enjoyed it on the small screen, I don't think I could watch it in 3 or 4 sittings. I think it needs to be watched in one. I'm going for 3. I enjoyed it, but I think that, I think it would be ideal at one of those like outdoor screenings. I want to see it on a big screen.
Helen?
I'm going to go 3. I don't think the size of the screen is that. I mean, watching it on a TV side screen is as much as you need, with a nice sound system so you can enjoy the soundtrack and all the gory, splattery intestines being shredded. It's 95 minutes. It's really short. Yeah. You can all give 95 minutes to this film and watch it in one go. I think it's not long. So I'm going to give it 3. And if it came to the cinema, the sequel, I might make the trip out to go and see that.
Yeah.
See Melting.
I'm going to give it a 4 because I don't think it needs a bigger screen. I think to make it this good, I think it needs probably more people, not necessarily a bigger screen.
Yeah, communal.
So can I ask, with the small screen score, are we actually talking the size of the screen, or are we talking the cinematic experience?
A bit of both, yeah.
Okay.
Do you need to change the score?
No, I think I'm going to stick at 3. I was imagining just the experience of watching it at home or in a cinema.
Well, I think other people have taken into account the having to pay in London 17 quid to go and see it.
It's not quite worth £17.
It's the kind of whole...
But it is worth giving 95 minutes of your attention to.
It's the whole kind of ambience of a...
That price does change things, I guess.
Buy the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Cheaper than that.
Well, this is taking it back to a small screen. Engagement score. Benjamin.
Give me a little guidance here, Kobe.
So engagement score is like how...
Often did you check your phone?
Yeah,
did you do the ironing while you were watching it?
Obviously, this perhaps doesn't apply to you because you watched it in transit, so you couldn't stop and you had to stop to get off your right stops.
Absolutely, yeah.
But thinking about maybe the first time you watched it.
I felt no need to look at anything other than this film.
Yeah.
It's captivating. It's thoroughly enjoyable. Got great characters. It's just tremendously pleasurable and it's an exuberant experience. Why I could not be distracted from watching it.
So that gives it
a 5.
5.
All very high scores from you. That's...
I'm an enthusiastic film goer, unless it's that one.
Yeah, average score is
film.
4.5, which is outstanding.
At risk of repeating myself, I feel like the score went up massively once I finally realised what it was that I was watching. So that opening, my engagement was relatively low. I was kind of very, if it hadn't been recommended, I would have been very close to turning it off. But once I kind of really realised what the film was and stopped kind of necessarily taking it seriously, engagement was there. I wasn't moving. So a 3.5, it probably would have been higher. And I wonder if that's my fault for just not having worked out what it was first and just going into it blind. And maybe it would have been higher otherwise, but...
No worries. Helen.
I think I'm going to go 4.5.
Wow.
I did do a little bit of IMDbing just to check that it wasn't obviously Johnny from Razorlight, and then got caught in a bit of an IMDb loop to find out who else had been in what and where I might have seen them if I'd seen them. So
is it only on Michael Ironside who's been in anything substantial?
That I've seen, yeah.
I think the Laurence, I might pronounce her name wrong, but Laurence Leboeuf, who plays Apple, she's been in a lot of films, but they're all kind of French-Canadian films that we haven't really seen over here.
But and also I was a little bit, I wasn't really following some bits of it that much. I was kind of waiting for the fun bits, yeah.
Yeah, I
don't think you need to be... I mean, you could definitely have this as getting some beers in, and you don't really need to be sat glued to the screen. I think it is definitely leads itself to being a communal experience.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go something like 3.8 because I don't think you need to be in the zone. In fact, I watched it in 2 sittings. The first half I watched, I was probably the most tired I've been for like the past 5 years, and I was trying to keep awake. And it was doing a good job, but I just couldn't stick with it. And that's not the film's fault. And when I came back to the second half, I was more engaged, but I still kind of didn't feel I needed to be 100% focused. Whereas if it was a film I needed to be fully on top of, I probably would have switched it off at the first few minutes and then come back to it and watch it from the start again. So I didn't feel the need to kind of re-see what I'd seen before. So it's not going to be the highest, but it's not going to be the lowest. So 3.8, I think, which gives us a total score of 3.9, which is actually...
Just about 4 nearly.
Yeah, nearly 4.
So that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty high.
Excellent. Yeah. I think for me, if anyone out there already follows Top Film Tip, my whole premise for films is I like to appreciate them based on are they doing what they set out to do? Are they fitting that genre well? You can't judge an action film based on its on its Oscar-winning acting in the same way that you wouldn't watch Pride and Prejudice and go, oh, there's rubbish explosions and no car chases. And this film achieves exactly what it sets out to do, just, to the nth degree. So
I think as a final sign-off, guys, who are you? Where can we find you?
I'm Ben. I'm from Top Film Tip on Twitter.
Yep. And yourself, Ed?
I'm Ed, and I'm at Corrigan90 on Twitter.
Cool, Leo.
Brilliant. Thanks for coming along.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us on, guys.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode. We had a lot of fun doing it. Please do check out all the details in the show notes to find out all the details about our guests, where to find them on Twitter, where to find their website, where to harass them. Don't harass them because they're very nice people. Please don't forget to subscribe to us on iTunes. And of course, we want to big up Tony and Jay and also Greg, our editors from GL Productions. Of course, please big up Mighty People for the tunes you can hear now. And at the start of the podcast, find us on Twitter at FlixWatcherPod and visit our website, flixwatcher.tv.